That's right, you are now listening to Tommy Tom's One Mic. Warning, this podcast contains explicit language, triggering or sensitive topics, and controversial discussions. Thank you so much for tuning in to Tommy Tom's One Mic.
I'm Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, flip personality, you know it's I. You never seen my kind, never seen a sliver or a slice. I'm the butcher, choice cuts, know I'm nice. You got beef? I got waggle with a knife. Now I'm gonna be wrapping up bodies up at night. Like Ray Charles, y'all know I'm out of sight. Now I'm gonna be slaying niggas, cause you know I love the life. Yo, you gotta read between the lines. I'm only gonna be moving when I'm read through all the signs. Johnny Mnemonic, I got an upgraded mind. This is for the rebels and the revolutionary minds. Cybernetic linguistics, you know I'm on my mind. Prototype the new dimension, man, that shit is mine. Future is creation and creation is sublime. Make your own legend, only happens with time.
Let's hit the mic.
Hey guys, welcome back to Tommy Tom and One Mic. And today I bring to you the second professional writing major in my college years at SUNY Cortland. We met one in Christine. And this one, how do I explain it? She's a curious one. We met randomly at the swim team's house. And, you know, usually in a school full of, I guess for lack of a better term, jocks, you know, the last place you're expecting to find somebody else who's a professional writing major is the swim team house. But I did find her. And what I admired about this girl is that she always seemed to be doing her own thing. And you got to always respect somebody who just kind of does their own thing. At least I do. So I'm very happy to be reunited. Miss Erika Clark. Erika, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent. Happy to be here and happy to be participating.
Now, you were a professional writing major in Cortland. Did you graduate with that?
I did, yes. I eventually got my diploma. It took me a while to finish up the last couple of credits, but professional writing is on the degree. Yeah.
Well, better than me.
Oh.
But no, that's cool. We've had some conversations. I will say, I guess incriminating myself. One of my favorite conversations with you, I believe I was tripping on LSD at a house party, and you kind of came in there, and we just started having a conversation because you're just like so curious as to. It was like, oh, this guy's a writing major, like me. Oh, okay, we'll talk. And I was like, yeah, I'm tripping face right now. And you're like, oh, really? Tell me about this.
That is absolutely still my response. And I don't encounter that as often. However, I mean, I would love to know what experience you're having right now. Because, yeah, I'm always curious about that. That's probably why I became a professional writing major. The professional was like, oh, that's fun. Sounds nicer, fancier. Because, you know, writing I was a reader. And so writing was like, well, I like this. I like different perspectives. You get to hear about everyone's experiences. And, you know, if you get to talk to a real live human and who's willing to tell you what's going on in their brain, it's always a fun encounter.
So you're a lot like, because Christine, when I talked to her, it was like the same thing. She was more of a reader. I always had a harder time reading. It was just like, I guess I was pretty obsessed with writing that it was like, as I'm reading, I'm already trying to figure out where this is going or something with like, say, just any story or something. It's like, all right, let me see how this goes. It still goes the same. Like I'll still read comics and then I have to stop because I'm like, all right, I know where this story's going. I got it. It sounds egotistical, but it's just like something in my head that's like, ugh.
So are you really good at predicting dialogue in movies?
Yes.
Yeah.
We were talking when I got a book published in high school. What I got a pamphlet from the editors, just giving me like the review, what I should fix and stuff like that. And one of the big things they I guess they gave me credit for was my dialogue between characters. They're like, that's like your strongest point in your writing is just the dialogue because it sounds real.
That's impressive, because getting realistic dialogue is not one of the hardest things all the time, because if you have a good back and forth between characters, you understand what they're supposed to say, but it's not that common.
I think it might be, maybe it is, you know, the LSD. I might have like some multiple personality things where I can just put myself in like other people, even with like just daily life. I can imagine my conversations with people, and I just go through like all the scenarios and stuff like that of like, okay, how would I react, or how would they react in this way or something. So it's just been a thing in my head. So whenever I've like written, and I guess having the characters talk to each other, I'm like there, and it's like, okay, I'm there. My nerdness, I guess you could say.
Or that's your imagination, not nerdness. So that I have another question to follow up with that perspectives is, who are you when you dream?
Ooh, yeah, this is why you're a massage therapist.
Yeah. So I don't usually get to ask that question to people.
Yeah. I guess it depends on how I go to sleep. I guess I'm some fantastical version of myself.
Interesting.
But
now,
I'm not like, I guess the question would be like, am I me now, or am I like,
are you your age or different,
probably my age, maybe a little older or something. It's more like, I guess, kind of futurist. I guess it's more so an envision of a future or something, or some fantastic, even in like the fantastical dreams, there's still me, like maybe not the main character, but I'm always there kind of visualizing. Yeah. I'm in the corner watching it, so I'm seeing that.
You have a perspective of it, yeah.
Yeah, always conscious of it too. But what did, like, I asked Christine about it too. I was like, what got you to choose professional writing and all that, and like an interest in it?
Well, choosing professional writing was the most logical choice for me, because I went to a teacher who I actually didn't like very much, who I did the freshman writing and the next level in order to get to the fun classes. And yeah. I said, what can I do that isn't journalism and isn't English? And they said, well, actually, we have a professional writing major. So, wow, that sounds pretty ideal. That way I get to see all the types of aspects of writing. You're not just an editor. You're not just, a person who writes instructions. You're not, it was digital. It was all of it. So I was pretty excited about it, and I haven't encountered really many majors like it in other universities.
Well, you know what? I got to give him credit. It's great marketing. Just the name professional writing was just like, I think that's what sold it to me also. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I'm what are you? Kind of a professional writer.
Yeah, I'm not just a creative writer, I'm a professional writer. So that definitely drew me. It's also, once I was there, it felt like a pocket, as you said, out of a jock school of like the artists and it wasn't quite like off cast, but it was the people who, like, I hadn't seen anybody smoke a cigarette for like ever. And then I went,
on the swim team, it's like, oh, this is,
people still smoke cigarettes. So that was like, wow, okay, like this is like the cool kids. So that was my perspective. And everyone's like, who is this sporty girl? Misses a lot of class. Yeah,
I think we had like one class together. I'm not sure.
I think there's a good chance there. I mean,
it might have been rhetoric. I want to think.
Ooh, I bet it was. I loved rhetoric.
I think it was rhetoric. It was like at first, like the discussion of what rhetoric was like weird. It was like, what is this class? What am I doing?
I loved that class. That class was the only thing. Just if I could do more of that class, that was the only thing in my entire student career that I was like, I would do more of this. I don't necessarily understand this, but I think this is everything.
Oh yeah, it's so weird. I guess it's like that old saying that your parents are saying, like, you'll realize when you get older or something. It's like now, like a decade. Oh God, let me hold that back. Ooh, yeah, hard or a decade ago. Wow. I look back at it and it's like all these things like, oh, now it makes so much more sense now. Everything that was there is like, oh, this really just, as I said to you earlier, really kind of like, oh, wow, this really did lead to like what I do now and stuff with my life and shit. That it's like, oh, I'm using everything I learned from back then, essentially.
Like knowing how to utilize all the different things that you got educated on is super valuable. And I don't, people ask me, what do you do with professional writing? It's like, well, you could be a lot of things, you have tons of options is if you want to go in that route. And I was not as keen to be sitting at a desk doing editing because I knew that's where I would end up. And I am a copy editor now, just for fun for certain people. But I've also been a poet for fun for my entire life. And I don't see myself as a poet, but my sister and family definitely would be like, yeah, that's a huge part of everything that you are, even up to like how I phrase my words and how I think. I don't have an internal dialogue, so I kind of just exist.
I get it. It's always interesting, like seeing people, I guess, after college to see who's using their major or who isn't and stuff like that. Christine, who I know, she was only there freshman year. Then she went to Marist and then she got into fashion. She was doing that. Then she had her kid during the pandemic, and it was like, well, I can't be going back and forth to the city. And now she's like, oh yeah, then I just kind of got back into writing, just finding the online kind of community and getting the articles and stuff posted and stuff like that. So you may not do what you like graduate with, but it's always going to be kind of there. What your main focus, what your main, I guess you could say love is always going to be there of what you like to do. Poetry be your, I guess your favorite form of writing, or is there?
It's more my most frequent, I would say. Because that's the one thing, and it's usually I always have to through writer's block. I would have to find different avenues of getting myself to just write something, and so I eventually ended up the one place that I was able to write poems was Facebook, it was just the format of the size of the amount of text, which is really weird in a sense. But that is my most common, and it's definitely my most used. But I was writing, I got introduced to poetry in 5th grade and got a poem published, and then I just liked it. That was the easiest expression. But I don't like reading poetry. I don't like it. I don't dislike it. I don't love it. It's not something I'll go out of my way to read. I don't mind listening to it. I think people spoken word is pretty awesome. And if you can also write a poem and then, tell it to other people in a way that reflects it properly, that's also impressive. But it's kind of just do it because it feels the need to be captured.
Poetry was always weird to me. Like, I guess for me, I use poetry as more so a game for me of like what new rhythms I guess I could make with the poems and whatnot. Not going just, I guess, your stereotypical A-B, or just like that kind of thing. I was like, all right, what tricky ways can I do it? Like hidden rhymes can I have?
Wordplay, yeah, real wordplay is fun, and that's what that's one of the things I like about it, because every time I was writing something that felt kind of cheeky, like I find myself like grinning, like yes, nailing it. And nobody else thinks it's funny because some of the things I was writing weren't funny, but like, haha, got it.
Those little like sneak things. I think I talked about it in an early episode. I found my sophomore year, I left because I had diverticulitis. I got diagnosed with that. So I took a medical leave. And during that, I found this book. It was called Hypographia. And it was a book about hypographia is an addiction to writing. And it was this idea of this lady who was like a therapist and whatnot. And she checked herself in to be kept in a place. And it was pretty much her journal there of like talking about how, I guess, what she explained with hypergraphia, it is like this thought of like everything around you is a story. And it's like almost like you're trying to write every story around you and you can't like let it go or something. And I was like, oh shit, this is like my brain right now. Cause it's like, yeah, that's how I kind of view a lot of things. And it like always frustrated me. It's like, no, that story's not supposed to go that way. It's supposed to go this way. What are you doing? And stuff like that. So I'm always curious about people that get into writing as to, I guess, how they view it, how they see it, and kind of what it inspires it, I guess, with them. So that's a question I never got to ask you when we were in school. Mainly because I was probably fucked up a lot of the times when like I would see you or something like, oh, hey. So I'm taking the opportunity now to kind of ask, what about writing? What about writing for you? Did you enjoy?
Well, as I mentioned, I didn't know that like, I don't have an internal dialogue. I didn't, I can narrate things, but writing was how I found my voice for real. Not just talking and not necessarily knowing what I think about things, but it was a way to channel and organize. And, it is kind of like translating from your brain to your fingers and seeing what, what your fingers think about what your brain's trying to say is always an interesting experience. I often found myself rereading something later on that I forgot I wrote and agreeing with myself a lot.
Yeah, you find those old writings just like,
you're like, wow, yeah, yes, I definitely think so. It's like, okay, yeah, I definitely think so. So that was what once I figured out just, what a voice was besides just like narrating things out loud, I could put it on paper and kind of, faucet into that. And that was, it's a very compelling thing it's a powerful thing when you didn't know you had a voice that could say things that you wanted to hear.
Did you, or even now, do you find it easier sometimes to express your thoughts, writing them down as opposed to verbally saying them?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm intrigued by the things that come out of my mouth, but I find that writing them down, I would often prefer that because it allows me that time. And I find that handwriting things and typing things is also a very different experience for me because my handwriting is terrible. I tried really hard in life to make it better. But in 6th grade, I had a competition every day of who could write the fastest notes. And I didn't even win. I was always second. But my handwriting really, really took a hit. And I find that writing things down with my hands is absolutely a different type of writing. And I'm a different type of writer. When I have the ability to delete and space and punctuate within my own grasp, that's always an easier, it's always pretty much almost always the chosen method of communicating if I had a choice.
As you were saying that, I was just like thinking to myself, it's like, yeah, for me, writing by hand, I don't know, I think I get more, because I have that option when I'm typing of just delete and all that. So maybe it's a little more raw for me. So I like taking notes by hand, but I also have like, I guess a bit of a complex because I don't hold my pen or anything to write the quote unquote correct way or something. I don't know if when you were in elementary school, they had like almost these square kind of rubber things that you were supposed to put on like a pencil or something to help you learn how to hold it correctly. I couldn't, it always fucked me up that I couldn't do it. I always had to like, almost like I had all my fingers around it that I was just like doing that.
It definitely is a more raw form. And sometimes like, a truer form, I take notes on everything. If I have to go to any kind of place that I'm supposed to learn anything, I am just sitting there writing pages of only legible to me.
Only legible.
But that allows me to like really, especially like capturing words and stuff. Even now, I almost came and started writing notes. I have a notebook in front of me.
I got 2 in front of me. Don't worry.
The writers.
Yeah. Nerds. Whatever. Yep. But no, I'm glad to like learn this about you with the writing and everything. Because like I said, I guess in school, like there were other professional writing majors. Like I even won from my hometown. So it's like, it's not like I didn't know them or anything, but I think majority of them, I think much like myself, they kind of like fell away from the program. I don't even know if it's still going on now.
I believe it is. I don't know how, I don't know what it consists of. But I'm pretty sure Dr. Frank is still there teaching. So that's the only thing I think I know about it. But yeah, for years, the only thing that I had to show for my professional writing degree was a good resume. I've always had a very well-written resume that never got bad. So that was like really the best thing.
Learn how to resume, right? Yeah. I had to edit a lot of people's papers. and all that. I'm not going to write it for you. Just give me like a rough thing and I'll like clear up. I'll clear up what you're thinking. That was generally it was like, let me see what you wrote. Okay.
My mother does that for me and my sister. She's all sorts of smart on a lot of different ways, but that was something she didn't have to bail me out a lot, but there's like definitely one time that I was like, I have 17 pages of stuff. Please help me make sense of all these things and sound coherent. And that's so valuable when you have somebody to be like, help, editor, make me make sense.
I think that was another selling point for me for the professional writing degree was that we didn't really have multiple choice. We didn't really have finals or all that. It was really like essays and all that. I was like, yes, all day.
Always essay finals of any test forever. You could require me to handwrite 10 pages and I would, over a Scantron, multiple choice, give me an essay. I'll write so many essays. All
day. It's like, I'll bullshit my way through an essay if I got to. I think my favorite one, and it was weird too, even if it wasn't professional writing, for whatever reason, I just ended up taking classes that I was always just like written, like I had human evolution and they're like, all right, so your whole grade is based on the final. So I barely went to the class because she just broke down the first day how this is going to go. She's like, all right, so like 10% is going to be, or 10 or 20% is going to be this multiple choice. Then you have your short answers, which are like 30. And then you have your big essay, which is like 50. So I'm sitting there like, all right, so I'm already working with 80. I'm going to work with 80. I just have to, and she would tell us what the final questions or possibilities were. Like she pretty much gave us everything. It's like, you just have to figure out before you get there.
The very first time I remember I got an essay question for a state test, and we were in, I think, 7th or 8th grade. And it was an essay answer, respond to this thing. And I forget what the topic was, but I just started talking to the essay people. And I was hilarious. I answered the question, and I am writing, a state test, and I am giggling in this test because I'm like, this is awesome. Like, we're never going to get to find our grades. Like, I'm going to answer this question, but I'm also going to talk to you because somebody's actually reading this. So you get to, have a conversation with me.
I thought I was like the only one. It was like the Regents or whatever, the final for English or something. I remember they gave us 3 choices or something, and one of them was talk about making a sandwich or something. And I was like, I'm gonna just fuck with this. That's it. I was like, screw it, let's just go in. And I must have written like 3 pages to them, just like sitting there. I was like, we got to stay here for like 2 hours. I'm already at this final. I'll just write until it's like time to go.
And that's why we were professional writing majors.
There it is. Well, I think that is a good halfway point for us at this point. When we get back, I'd like to talk to you about what you're doing now. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about the swim team. As anybody from my hometown knows, that was a place I frequent quite a bit in college, and some good memories there. So we will be right back after this. And we're back. Hey, I hope you guys have been enjoying this I guess, nerd writing conversation with Miss Erika Clark. Erika, we, of course, got through the writing history with you. But as I said, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you about swimming. If it wasn't for the swim team, I wouldn't have met you and a bunch of other people who I have many fond memories of from my SUNY Cortland days. So what got you into swimming?
Swimming. Well, I'm still in swimming. I learned to swim when I was 3, like for real swim, like distance swimming when I was about 3 years old. And then I just kept swimming. Started doing it, finished with the YMCA. They're like, you gotta move on, go to a real swim team. Good luck. We've taught you all we can. Mm-hmm. And so 7 years old, walked onto a pool deck and was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And so I was pretty much the same height from like 8 years old to like now. And I really did a good job and excelled, but I also was super keen to learn about swimming and understand how it worked and get better and technique. And so not only did I swim when I was 14 years old on, I started coaching too. So I still coach. I have coached the whole time because I've had to coach myself since we finished at Cortland, and keep myself in the pool and engaged and able to keep competing if I want to compete, which I only want to compete once in a while, but I kind of just stay in it to be in it. But besides the fact that I was impressed with Cortland's pool, which is 50 meters, diving well, huge stadium seating, no windows, but it's a really big pool. So I was like, wow, this is impressive. I like it here. That's cool. And I talked to the coach a whole lot. We just had conversations, sort of similar to this, just chatting. And, swimming was what got me into college because my grades were not quite what colleges would want, but my swimming and athleticism was. I got into Cortland for, it was a special something. It was something special. They were allowed to say, we want this person. Maybe their grades aren't great, but we want them to go here. So there I went. And so being on the swim team meant that I never had to worry about being in a sorority or anything like that, because freshman year, then those girls go around knocking at your door trying to recruit you, and I said, I'm on the swim team. They're like, oh, never mind. Okay, have fun, and moved on because, as you know, the swim team has its own, held its own as
your own group. You're your own group.
It was quite a force, It was men and women too, so there's a whole lot of us.
I was gonna say, but and I hope this isn't like offensive or something. It was like you did stick out in that, like you said that you've been like the same height, like since like you were 8 or something. I was like, but by the time of college, you were one of like the shorter.
I never knew I was short until college when they made you line up for height things for pictures, and I was like, what? I had no idea I was the second shortest person on the swim team. I guess my presence belied, I believed I was taller, so I act taller. How a small dog doesn't know it's small, it just acts like a dog.
Napoleon complex. It was
apparently. Again, I'm 5'5" in the morning, so which is a perfect average, and I am okay with that because there are plenty of shorter people, and life shorter is a little bit more challenging. You got to climb up on a lot more stuff.
It was just something that like I always noticed. I was like, this is how she gets away with like people not knowing exactly where she can just kind of float. It's like at first you think, wait, you're on a swim team? It's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. Yeah, because the stature, I don't have a swimming stature. I'm not super tall and lanky and long arms, which turns out is definitely the body type for a reason, because my senior year I was the only swim off of the entire meet, which happens pretty much once a meet at championships, but it happened to be me. And my opponent was a swimmer body with arms that were twice my size, and she was probably a good 5 inches taller than me. And I was like, well, I'm already really tired, so I think you win. And she did. So I was like, man, body types, she had an arm's length advantage on me. And, you start realizing that, hey, this is why certain sports have certain body types.
But no, you still stick with it. You're still coaching. I know in scheduling this, there were we had to work around your schedule of coaching and whatnot. So you've clearly stuck with it. I guess along you've kind of kept a little of your 2 college themes of swimming and writing, I guess, somewhat in your lives.
Yes, I have found that I don't do very well at things that I don't really like to do, which is the case for a lot of us, but I also never succeeded at trying to do things the normal way. And, I'd rather get it done my way than not get it done at all. So I've always been comfortable going about it just however I need to, and keeping it in my life, keeping it a passion. I like writing and I like swimming, and I never let myself. I got burnt out my senior year swimming. I swam from 8 years old. I swam on multiple teams, also private lessons, everything. And then I was like, I think I'm tired of this. I think I'm gonna not swim for high school this year, because the idea of waking up before the sun was up and going into my high school, which also had no windows in the pool, and having to swim for an hour before the sun is up, and then be in school the entire day, and then not leave until the sun was down. I was like, I think I'm 17 years old. I'm not going to swim. I'm going to join the ski team for a couple months, and then I went to college. So I was lucky enough that all my times qualified me and made me still appealing, that I didn't need to. But burnout gets everybody, and I was aware enough to just kind of let myself skip it instead of trying to push through, because I think that when you try to push through, whether it's writing or sports, is just not gonna necessarily work out.
You got to always make sure those things that you like don't become, I guess, almost a burden as you're doing them and stuff like that.
I mean, I don't get paid a ton of money to coach, but I always keep doing it because I think there's more value in it than monetary. And similar massage, I get as a massage therapist, I can, I am an independent contractor, so I can make sure I'm paid properly, but I can't personally physically work enough to let myself get burnt out, because if I try 3 days straight in a row, by the end of it I'm physically exhausted and emotionally a zombie, because I put a lot into it, because I do love it, but I don't love it enough to give my body and life to it.
Yeah.
So that's I keep the love boundaries.
How'd you get into massage therapy though?
As a very competitive swimmer, I got pretty injured by the time I was 12 years old, and I had multiple friends get surgeries, and I personally went through physical therapy for quite a couple years, and then they said, "You're rehabilitated. Here's an award at the Nets Stadium." And I went with my orthopedist and my physical therapist, and I got an award for most rehabilitated athlete. But my shoulder still hurt, and so there was a massage therapist nearby that apparently had worked on other swimmers, and so I started seeing her about once every 6 weeks, and I never had to go back to PT again. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Massage therapy is really cool. And then I looked at like a muscle man, all the muscles in the body, and I was like, nope, I can't remember. I can't remember half of that. And then freshman year at the Castle, which was a renowned building. It was a castle. Three stories of debauchery and college whateverness. And I jammed my thumb. I just tripped on the stair going down. I jammed my thumb, and I ended up having to all sorts of stuff. And it was not great. I had a cortisone shot, this and that. And I was like, well, no massage therapy. Okay, moving on. Professional writing, swimming, whatever that is. But I loved massage. I just could never afford it. And then I worked, after college, I worked as a secretarial assistant because I wasn't just a secretary. I did other stuff. And I worked for my acupuncturist. And I really liked just learning about these things in the body. And I, as a lifeguard of 10 plus years, I was always, intrigued by injuries. And as a swimmer, I had always been the team massage therapist. It was, my flirting, but it was also like, I get to help people because I know where these things hurt on your shoulders because mine also hurt. And so I always had that underlying of massage as a therapy and as a way to help make things feel better. But it took until after me and he was my boyfriend then, we were like, we got to leave. I can't be a swim coach anymore. We should go somewhere else. And we'd already traveled to places that they didn't speak English. So we're like, let's go to a place that they speak English this time. And we went to Australia, but we couldn't pick a place in Australia because it's really big. So we picked Tasmania, which is a little island state of Australia. And while I was there, I realized I had to really kind of figure out my career path, which it was pretty much between massage therapy or acupuncture school because I just couldn't envision myself liking anything enough to want to study it more. And besides the fact that acupuncture school required me pretty much to go back to full college, I decided that also more people like massage than needles. So that was a big draw. And then we moved to Maine. And there were no acupuncture schools, so that also decided things. So that was pretty much it
for you.
Yeah, exactly. Maine's lack of diversity made the decision for me.
I've had acupuncture done, and what is it with the glass cups? I guess.
Yeah, cupping. Yeah.
It's wild. So I can imagine that. Yeah, when you say it's probably expensive, I was like, yeah, because you got to know what you're doing when you're doing something.
You're going to be putting needles and like maybe fire cupping and glass and like stuff like that in people. You have to know what you're doing because they're going to figure out that if you don't.
That's not something you can exactly scam. But I mean, hey, people have scammed being doctors before. So who knows? Maybe.
It's true. Actually, even in Vermont, like until this last year, speaking of scams, anybody could be a massage therapist. Like you could be like, hey, I live in this shack and put the sign massage therapist. And there was nobody be like, hey, you're not really a massage therapist. So we were
like a regulation or something that like checks on
only nothing until this past like 2020 2021, like this last year. They're like, actually we should probably make sure that like random people aren't touching other people and making them pay for it.
yeah that's the best way to put it, I guess.
So yeah, Vermont was the only state.
Is it the only one that there's like no medical, I guess, overseeing body?
That was it. Yeah, there's no licensure regulations. And I think they finally last year they're like, okay, let's do this. Because I think it was like, there was no other state in the United States that didn't have anything, and which was baffling to me. Like, okay, we're fairly progressive in like a lot of other things. But not that. Like, and even with like state insurance, chiropractic care is under it. So you'd think that like maybe they would have some sort of legislature on massage therapy.
Well, that's where I was thinking, like, I know chiropractors do. I don't know if a masseuse necessarily has like the same kind of like regulations. So I think that's where it kind of becomes a thing. But I think that might be the confusion of like the difference between just someone who's a masseuse and a therapist.
Yeah, that exactly. And masseuse is one of those words that has a lot of association attached to it. Like you think masseuse, you think massage parlors, and you think massage parlors, and then who knows?
Yeah, you
what inappropriacy you think.
Yeah.
And so like for before I was a massage therapist, I was a masseuse. But now that I have both, I keep my license in Maine where I got it. I pay for that, and also keep my licensure. And have that schooling and education. There's a certain limit, and I passed. I did a test after I graduated that, like, hey, look, I am educated. I did do these things, and I didn't just fake this 500-hour, 600-hour program, with a printout, which, like, as I said,
I didn't Google
scams.
doc this. I didn't Google this. And just print this out on paper.
This is a genuine copy. So it was massage therapy was, well, even in school, because I had after I graduated officially from Cortland, I took some classes for fun, including anatomy and physiology, which kind of shows that I was, maybe on the massage therapy track before I knew I was, because I took that for
went on the side.
To say, for funsies, A and P. Let's I actually refused to take it in Cortland because everybody failed. So I was like, this seems not so fun. I don't want to take anatomy and physiology. I'm going to fail it. Everybody fails. So I took it afterwards just for fun. So going to massage school, I was a little more educated already on that stuff. And I really was like, I think this is it. I think I love this. And apparently I'm a nerd, but I don't see it like that. But
you established this, though. It's all right. I accept it.
Thank you. From a fellow nerd.
If you went into the professional writing major at SUNY Cortland, you're probably a nerd.
I agree. I think there has to be a little bit. That's sort of a prerequisite.
Like I said, I'm curious how people, I guess, get to where they are now and stuff like that. You went out to Australia. You were living out there for.
So we picked where we're going, and I'd actually before, I know that this guy that's my husband. He's one of my best friend's cousin, and so. I had known him from well before when we were youngins in high school, and in college I had, at some point been like, hey, you want to go pick cherries in New Zealand with me? Because I don't know what I'm doing with my life. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. But then I ended up staying at Cortland and not going and picking cherries in New Zealand. But we picked Tasmania, and we actually ended up getting jobs so that we could go there and working visa or whatever, something small like that. But we lost the job before we even left because they're like, we cut that shift. And one of the main purposes of going was to have me get out of my job cycle, which was only swim coaching. I was working 3.5 coaching jobs, high school, private, summer league, and club. So I was popping up pool. I went into the swimming world.
Yeah.
I went into the swimming world. I went in deep. Yeah, I was fully immersed. Yeah. And so I was like, I gotta, if we move anywhere in the US, I'm gonna just get more swimming jobs because that's what I'm qualified for. And so we left the US, and I got my wish, which was to just have a job that I got to, be it was not a handpicked perfect job. I have this very lovely knack of getting a perfect job, which I work for, but I'm willing to wait to create the right job or find the right place that I fit. But I always it's not just lucky, I'm qualified, so I shouldn't call it lucky. But it was like, wow, this opening happened and I'm qualified for it. And this perfect, wonderful job is mine now. And I really wanted a job that wasn't perfect. And so I got my wish, in which I was a waitress at a creperie. And this was first the guy said, no, I don't want you, can't use you. We ended up in a small town sort of near Bay. And Scott, he got a job as a jeweler. He went into the jeweler that he had traded a New Hampshire fluorite for a Tasmanian topaz, and he was like, I want to do, I would love to work there. And I was like, email him. We live in a tent. And he emailed him, and he got the job. So we moved to this smaller town, and I walk into this creperie. I have my CV, as they say, curriculum vitae, and there they expect your resume, your CV, to be every job you've ever had. In a resume here, it's like one page or we're not reading it. And
So you actually had to write out like an essay for.
So I had to have like a bushel of pages, and none of these places wanted me because it was like their off season and no place is really hiring. So I walk into a creperie and he doesn't want me, and then calls up and said, start in like 4 days, and then calls up the next day and says, start now, start today. I'm like, okay, all right. I have nothing else to do. I have a bike and, So I ended up working for this manic Polish guy who lived in Tasmania with his wife, his fiance, who just moved out there, who didn't speak really any English, bought this place and sold overpriced crepes. And it was all over the place, and it was a job that wasn't perfect for me. And I got the full experience of being in the service industry for a crazy human being who, doesn't treat you like a person enough to make it worth it. But it was a good experience. And so
be careful what you wish for sometimes, but at the end it was what
it
what
worked
you
out.
asked for.
It was a valuable experience. I was able to go on and be a waitress more because I had experience then. So I, took that from it. But, that was also what prompted me to be like, hey, better make a decision about something because you don't want to have to do this for that long. Nothing like a nice kick in the ass from the world to be like,
get that out of your system now. Let's get that out of your system now.
Exactly. So that was, wasn't, it's not everybody's chosen path, but it worked out pretty well. Vermont is awesome. I still have to remind myself often that I actually live here because it's a little surreal.
Were you originally like one of the Long Island people?
No, my roommate in my freshman year was. I am from the Hudson Valley. So I'm more south than you, but I'm the Rockland County.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was always curious because like that was generally it was either like up towards Buffalo or like the island Westchester
Buffalo
area.
Or Long Island. Yep.
Yeah. That was the majority of Cortland. So it's like it's a safe bet. Most people probably are. It's like I'm in the middle. You're like, what's the middle? You're upstate.
People are like, where are you? You're like, you're upstate. You're like, no, not really. I'm like, I'm in the Hudson Valley area. Like, I don't know what that is. Like,
I'm probably just as far from the city as you are, whatever part of Long Island you are.
Right. Yeah. Like my train ride's also about an hour to get to the city. So yeah, I'm very happy to not live in Long Island. I did it for 2 summers as an ocean lifeguard, and I wonder, the ocean makes things like worth it, but woof, it's a lifestyle that is not, as I speak from Vermont, obviously is not my chosen lifestyle.
Yeah, you went to the exact opposite. That's why I was like, was she alone? She is. She is out of her element. Like,
nah, this is Hudson Valley is not a far stretch of the Adirondacks, and I grew up going canoe camping every 2 weeks of the summer for my entire life because my parents were like, you gotta be immersed in nature. Let's go. We all gotta put ourselves in the woods.
Before you had so many games and distractions on a phone that you could just give the kid that. It's like, nah, man, I was playing Manhunt and running around the woods.
So yeah, I learned how to start fires and like how to hang the food so the bears don't get it. And
there would be sometimes that like I get together with like some of my friends from the island or something, and they're like, yeah, or like even just some family that are like, all right, we're gonna go camping and all that time. You're gonna be okay. It's like, you guys, are you going to be okay? I know what I'm doing. Can you swim, Tom? Can you swim? Are you gonna? I was like, yeah, I got this, guys. Don't worry about it. I actually learned from a black guy how to swim. That's a true story. So don't worry about it. We got it. Am I like am I swim team worthy? No. No. I'm definitely not swim built. Okay. I'm way too short for that.
You say that, but as you know what, it's not about, again, as an example of something.
Now I'm thinking like, no, you guys did have Lewis on the swim team.
Exactly. See? Yep. Louis is a good example of height doesn't matter that much. Pretty much, can you not drown? First step. That's the best first step. Can you not drown? Can you make sure your mouth is breathing? That's the most important thing. And everything else from there is
I got the basics.
Strenuous.
I got the basics.
I am, I don't like giving lessons to kids that much anymore if I don't have to. I love teaching adults, which is something that I do around here. And I actually am part of the diversity, equity, and inclusivity for New England Swimming, which has been a struggle to even have it be a committee or exist. They're like, oh, we got 75% of our budget cut. Like, oh, and then the 2 chairs left because they were not white females and nobody listened to them. Like, oh, like, let's persevere. So, like, I want everybody just to, can you not drown? We don't make sure we're all going to not drown. And then we'll continue from there. If you want exercise, I can also provide that. But first step, don't drown. People are like, I'm not in shape to get in the pool. And it's like, you don't need to be in shape. You just need not, can you keep your face out of the water enough? Can your mouth breathe? So, yeah.
Learn how to float. That is the first step. Learn to float.
Rolling over from your front. Do you know what the wall is? Can you get out of it?
I don't know if it's for you, but I know like my parents and a couple of my friends' parents, that's the thing that they get into is swimming, like later on and stuff, whatnot. Yeah. That like, I know that's a big thing with my dad now that he's like retired. He's like, yeah, I went to the Y, swam a little bit and all that. Like,
yep. It's so that there's a certain age, I think, that doctors start being like, yeah, you should definitely like not have gravity, pounding on you. Go swim, do something that like stretches you and gets your heart rate up, and is also like not ruining your knees, your hips, or your back. So there's a certain point that older adults are like, yeah, swimming's the thing.
Done with this gravity shit that we gotta deal with. That's it. I'm done with it.
I'm done with this earth element. Give me water.
Yeah, but Erika, I think I've kept you long enough. I think this has been a fun conversation. Good reconnect.
It was an awesome time. It was so good to reconnect and have a conversation. And
thank you so much. And guys, if you are listening to this episode, thank you. Hey, great. Hit that like, subscribe, whatever is available to you on the platform that you are listening to this on. And of course, if you would like to contact me, you guys can do so at TommyTomP88 on Instagram and the TommyTom88 on Twitter. Erika, once again, it was lovely reconnecting with you. I tried to make sure that this was a fun experience for you. Hello to any of, the swim team members that get to listen to this because they see that I'm talking to, of course, the most famous swim team member is Erika Clark. But thank you so much. And we will catch you all next time.
I'm Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, flip personality, it's I. You never see my kind, never seen a fucking sliver or a slice. I'm the butcher, choice cuts, I'm nice. You got beef? I got waggle with a knife. Now I'm gonna be wrapping up bodies up at night. Like Ray Charles, y'all know I'm out of sight. Now I'm gonna be slaying niggas, cause I love the life. Yo, you gotta read between the lines. I'm only gonna be moving when I'm read through all the signs. Johnny Mnemonic, I got an upgraded mind. This is for the rebels and the revolutionary minds. Cybernetic linguistics, I'm on my mind. Prototype the new dimension, man, that shit is mine. Future is creation and creation is sublime. Make your own legend, only happens with time.